In this lesson, we're going to be diving deeper into what can be done with arrays. So let's first create our first array and add in some values here. So I'm going to do just a bunch of random values in here.
This video is brought to you by EpiPies Academy.
So I'm going to have some strings, some numeric values. So now that gives us 9 items within the array, and now we have something to work with. So the first thing that we had looked at previously is that we've got our console log and that we were able to sort arrays. So that's what we had looked at previously, that we had this ability to simply write a method or a function that's built in within JavaScript that gave us the ability to do a sort of the array. So I don't need that semicolon in there. Let's go back out, refresh it, and we can see that we can sort the array first by numbers and then by alphabetically. So what happens if you actually want to reverse sort that? You want to look at it from the reverse order. So that's possible as well. And now if I add in reverse, so we had sort and we can reverse order that. So notice that it starts out with 2, 6, 1, 5. So it's the exact reverse order as we got within sort. And this gives us the ability to really pull out some really meaningful information if we want to organize our array contents and sort them in different types of formats. So another thing we can do with arrays is we can add additional values in there. And in order to add items within the array, this is where we've got pushing and popping. So first of all, let's look at adding an item into the array. So we can add items into the array by doing what's called a push into the array. So this is just another function here where we've got push and rounded brackets there, and then within those rounded brackets, this is where we add in the new item into the array. So now if I output that array, so now we've got quite a few outputs there, but so we can take a look and we can see that 10 was added. We can also remove items from the array, and that's what's called pop. So as opposed to push, we simply do a pop. So for pop, we don't actually need to specify. So what pop does is when I refresh it, we see that it actually removes one of the items from the array. And I'm actually not outputting the array, that's why we're not able to see it. Go back out and refresh it. So I added the 10 in over here and I popped it out over there. So you also have some options where you can shift items within the array. So let's say, for instance, you want to take out that first element. So instead of pop, where we're taking out the last element within the array, let's take out the first one. And this is how we can do shift, and basically it returns that element. So if I had variable a equals to shift, and now I want to console log out a, and as you can see, as we're writing more and more code, you can see we're doing quite a bit more. So we can actually pull out that value that we're pulling out of the array, and we could do the same thing for pop as well. So if we wanted to hold that value of that array, when we pull it out, we can pull it out and we could hold it within the variable a, and we can also shift and adjust what our array looks like, because now we've pulled out that value from there. We can also add new elements into the beginning of the array. So just as we did before with the pop and the push, if we've added or we've taken something out that we don't want to take out, we can do an unshift. So the opposite of shift is unshift. And we can add an item to the beginning of the array. So this is actually going to add 10 to the beginning of the array, and of course I need to output that value of the array. Go back out, refresh, and now we've added in the value 10 in the beginning of the array. We can also select the different items and actually update them. So going by whatever the number is, we can update them. If we wanted to remove out a specific one, we can specify that by doing a splice. So that we can splice out items out of the array, and we can remove and we can add in items into the array with splice. So splice is a very powerful function. So let's splice. Essentially, this one changes the content of the array, allows us to add new elements while removing other elements. So let's say, for instance, we wanted to remove the first element. So first of all, we need to specify where it is, what the index value is, and how many we want to remove out. So let's say we actually want to remove out 2 items from the array. Let's go back out and refresh it. So now what's happened is we've spliced. So we started at position 0, so first item 0, and we removed out those first 2 items out of the array. So we removed out the value of 10, we removed out the value of 6, and we ended up with a much shorter array, so missing those 2 values. And let's say, for instance, you want to add something back in. So this is actually going to be spliced as well. So whatever position we want to start, where we want to start our splice. So let's say we want to start the splice somewhere maybe in the middle, and how many elements we want to remove. So we actually don't want to remove any elements. So we can do this 0 and 2, and we can add in 2 brand new elements in their place. We can also simply add in an item at a particular location without removing any, or we could set to remove some. So very powerful, again, what we can do with Splice. And I'm just going to create added 1, and let's do added 2. Get rid of that extra comma. And now let's see what our array looks like here at the end. So we see that at index 3, which is 0, 1, 2, index 3, we added the 2 items there. We didn't remove any out. We could just as easily change that value and remove items out of that array. So basically, there is a lot of functionality that's built into arrays, and we saw how we can manipulate all of that data that's contained within that array, work with it, and make updates to it within the array, and produce a brand new array. And of course, if we wanted to, we could also do something where we could do variable and n array, and then we could equal that to the value that's being output of the array at this point. So we could have a brand new array there, and with additional values into it as well. So a lot of options of what we can do with arrays. In the next lesson, we're going to look at some other powerful built-in functionality that's already contained within JavaScript that you can utilize within your code. So that's coming up in the next lesson.